All right. I was going to write a series of tweets about this, but I realized after trying unsuccessfully to do that this just needs to be something that I record a video about. So, the parrot story, as my friend Jeff was talking about earlier. This was September 7th of 2019. It was the morning of the first Indiana football game of the year, and my college roommate, James, was coming down and was going to meet us at the house, and we were going to go tailgate, I think starting at like 11. So at 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, I go out to the garage, and I open the garage door, and I'm getting stuff loaded into the back of my vehicle, and I hear this rustling behind me, and I turn around, and a huge green bird is flying into my garage and lands on a piece of furniture that was sitting in the garage and just kind of sits there and stares at me. And now I'm like, of all the things I expected that morning, a large green bird flying into my garage while I was trying to load the truck for the tailgate was not among those things. And so I'm like, what is this? So I just kind of look at the bird. The bird looks at me, and I'm a little freaked out, like just in general, because I'm not a big bird guy. Don't really like birds. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And then the bird like starts to flap its wings, like it's gonna come at me. So I freak out and I run back into the house and close the door. And I'm like, I look at my wife, and I'm like, there's a huge green bird in the garage. Like I don't know where it came from. Part of me is like, is this like the bird of death or something? Am I about to pass away? But I'm like, okay, the bird must still be in the garage. What do I do? So I go outside and I kind of peek around to look inside the garage, and there's no bird. And I'm like, okay, where the hell did the bird go? So then I hear this warbling sound, and I look up in one of the trees, and the bird is in front of the house in one of these trees. And it flies over and lands on the top of my car. And I'm like, okay, well, that's even better. And I'm just kind of looking at it from the porch, and it turns around, and it sees me standing on the porch, and it flies at me again, like directly at me. And I like run off the porch and run off the side of the porch and end up in the front yard. And I'm like standing in the street, and I see this bird standing on my porch, pecking at the door. And I'm texting my wife, and I'm like, honey, I don't know what to do. This bird's trying to get in the house. And it's sure enough, it's like climbing up the door and like pecking. So my wife starts taking pictures from the inside, and there's some great photos somewhere of this bird like with its beak and like looking directly into the house. So I posted on Twitter that, okay, there's this huge bird, this green bird that looks like a parrot that's essentially terrorizing our house, and we can't get out of the house, except for me, who's like can't get into the house. So my friend Jeff, who tweeted about this, sees this, and he starts looking on Facebook and sees that somebody in the Bloomington Lost and Found Pets Facebook group has been missing this parrot or parakeet for the last week. And so he puts two and two together, and he sends me the info for contacting them. So I text these people, and I'm like, I think I found your bird. And as it turned out, they lived in the neighborhood. They lived like down the street. And sure enough, this parrot had been missing for this whole time. So it was probably incredibly hungry. I think it had just been hanging out in the tree. So I'm standing there waiting. The bird's still standing on my porch, and this car pulls up, and this family pops out, and it's like a dad and then like two kids who look like they're around 10 years old. And the girl walks out and walks up to the porch, and the bird just hops on her arm, and they walk back to the car, and they give it some water, they give it some food, they hop in the car, they drove away, never saw them again. So it was a happy ending, but I don't think I've never been as terrified by something happening in my house as I was just like with this bird that would not leave us alone. But it ended up having a happy ending, and my thanks to Jeff for helping make that happy ending happen. And hopefully the bird is still going. We got a nice card from the family afterwards with the like a kind of a felt representation of the bird. So yeah, that's the bird story.